Hello and welcome to my For Hire deck profile for November 2018. Now, I've been trying to play For Hire since May when they came out, and to be honest, I've tried so many different engines with them. I've tried the Brilliant Fusion engine, I've tried the Invoke engine because they're all different attributes. I've tried Rescue Cat into sort of Naturia Beast plays and also Recon and Domper, and none of them really worked with the deck. There was just too many sort of like there were too many cards that were required, and not enough space in the 40 cards. So I've gone a little out there, and we've expanded the deck to actually be 60 cards. Now, obviously, there's no grass that's greener, so we're not looking to mill. But with the 60 card variant, you're able to fit in the most important engine that really helps for hire, which is the Brilliant Fusion engine, which at the 40 cards kind of ended up being too many dead draws because you'd only be running one Garnet. I know you don't want to run that many Garnets, but you only want one Garnet and one Darlingtonia Cobra. So if you drew those early on, which I happen to do quite a lot in actual testing and real life tournaments, it basically meant that your whole Brilliant Fusion engine was completely dead. So, in expanding it to 60 cards, you're able to play multiple copies of Garnet and Darlingtonia Cobra. You've still got as many ways into them with Lone Fire and Orphis Scorpio, and you're able to dig through your deck quite well anyway with your various sort of link monsters that you run and some of the for hires that search and sort of excavate. So all in all, like with 60 cards, the deck doesn't actually suffer as much as it could because we've got a really big monster lineup, quite a big lineup of spells, and a few sort of defensive traps to kind of round off the deck. And it works really well. It gets into sort of Sayuya and Folgo and other links in like one turn when it pops off. And with its variety of sort of defensive cards, it's able to kind of maintain that field that it can get quite well. So it's definitely not the most competitive deck, but it's really fun, and I encourage you to give For Hire a try. If not with this build, then with the build sort of similar or utilizing their abilities well. So we'll start off with the big boss of the deck, Triple Reveal. He is without a doubt the best for hire, like on his own. He's the big level for hires, as in the ones that you can't normal summon, the ones that are level 5 or higher. They all have they kind of end your chain of being able to special summon for hires, because basically all the for hires can summon another for hire from the hand once per turn, that with a different name to themselves, and all the little ones level 4 lowers have that effect, but the level 5 or hires don't, because they're sort of the end of the chain. They get an effect on their special summon, and then they have a sort of an effect that's kind of lingers throughout. So Revealed is the level 8 big boss, and his effect on special summon, you excavate the top cards of your deck, each number for hires you control with different names, except himself. So usually you'll be using this, and you'll be excavating 2, 3, maybe even 4 cards, and then you just get to add one to your hand. Doesn't even have to be a for hire card, and then you shuffle the rest into your deck. This is insanely good because it allows you to kind of dig into your deck, find the card that you need for that scenario, and allow you to push your plays even further forward. And also, once per turn during other player's turn, when a monster effect is activated, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can discard a for hire card to negate the activation. It doesn't destroy; it just negates the activation. So it's odd wording, but it's really useful to have a Reveal out and have at least one for hire in your hand when you pass the turn to the opponent, because then you're able to get that one negate, which can be really crucial. And he's got a big body as well, because this deck kind of puts out a lot of damage really quickly. So, and with Reveal having 2800, he gets over most things, and that allows you to then trigger Folgo if you've not been able to trigger Folgo in the main phase 1. And allow you to then draw hopefully 3 cards since you destroy a monster by battle. So Reveal is a really key component, and also because he's light, he's one of the Brilliant Fusion targets. We have one other that's more preferential to use, but if you draw him in your first hand, Brilliant Fusion is still not dead because you're able to send the Reveal from your deck to the graveyard, and he's able to be recovered with stuff like Seal and Mayhem for hire and stuff like that. So he's a really good card and the big boss of the main deck. One Wiz Sage for hire. Honestly, she's not that amazing, but she's got like a decent defense with 2800, and she essentially, when she's special summoned, you get to gain 500 LP for each for hire you control with a different name. That's not that great, but when your opponent activates a spell or a trap card or effect, you can discard a card for hire to negate it. And again, it doesn't destroy like Reveal. and like because the deck aims to do high damage output, she's not too good at that. 1600 attack is pretty bad, but in certain decks, if you're able to get her out and you have a Fahaya in hand, it can kind of cause a lot of shutdown, like with Sky Strike, which you can stop their engage and stuff like that. So I think it's valid to have it one, and you kind of want to have as many different for hire names anyway, just so you can keep popping off, so you can get the really good effects out of Reveil and Folgo. But generally, Wiz isn't the greatest card to go into, but isn't too bad. Like she can also be used as link material because she's the only spellcaster. Well, she's not well because she's one of the few spellcasters in the deck. She's quite useful to go into Folgo because she's a different type to most of your other stuff. So she's okay, and I would definitely recommend it one just because you want the different names as much as possible. Similarly, I'm just going to go through these two. We have one Dinah and one Sagita. Dinah is basically banishes cards from your opponent's graveyard when he's summoned, equals the number for highest you control. That's really good depending on the matchup, and like I mean, most decks use the graveyard as a secondary resource, so being able to banish a few cards is pretty damn good. And also, your opponent can't attack other for hires, so that's okay. Again, just another name, and it's Beast Warrior, which is an attribute that only Seal has, so it's also a type that only Seal has, so that's pretty good as well. And then Sagita, I like Sagita a lot. I know some builds don't even run her at all, but Sagita basically has burn damage on summon for each for hire you control except itself. So say you summon this guy when you've got 3 for hires out, that's 1500 damage, and with the amount of damage you can output per battle phase, Sagita helps to kind of push for the sort of 8k in one turn, and is really useful at 1, and because she's searchable and you can bring her out from the deck with Folgo, so I really like her. She's also, with being a winged beast, she's also a target. Oh, I should just say for Dinah. Dinah's also a target for one of the extra deck monsters you run, which is Firefighting Darumidal. Yeah, Firefighting Darumidal. So if need be, she can be used to put into a link for that. And also a 1 on the field, your opponent can't target other fires with card effects except herself. So that's kind of useful if you want to leave her out with about 4 for hires or whatever you, and in your end phase you've got a sort of targeting protection. So she's not too bad. Then we can move on to the level 4 lowers where you're going to be running a lot of these. So you have triple Bravo. Bravo, all these level 4 lows, as I said, have the effect during your main phase you can special summon a monster for hire from your hand except itself. And then Bravo's effect, if a monster for hire is special summoned except during the down check, you can have all for hires you control gain 500 attack and defense to the end of this turn. Then you might be thinking, well, that's like a decent effect to gain attack, but why 1-3? Well, it really helps in pushing in battle. It gets your Folgo up to 2-9, which is going to push over most things. Get your Reveil up to 3,300, which pushes over basically everything, and it gets itself up to 2-4, and your other for hires up a bit. And it's a different type to most of your other for hire, so it can be useful to go into Folgo. And that extra attack boost is really critical when pushing for game. Plus, it's also got the effect, especially on another for hire, to keep your chain going. So it's a really good card. It might not be the best at disrupting the opponent or doing sort of, or actually popping stuff like some of the others do, but for what it does, which is a healthy attack boost that can allow you to push for the game in that turn, Bravo does it really well and is a really solid addition. That I think you could put him down to 2, but I like him at 3. I always want to be able to see him at least once, or like once every turn basically. So then we have 3 Seal Slashes for hire. He's one of the best. He's similarly, he's a level 4 Beast Warrior who special summons for monsters for hire from your hand. But his effect is so good. When he's special summon another for hire, basically offers his effect, you actually add 1 back from your graveyard, which you can then basically special summon with the monster that you've just then special summoned. So he's really good at allowing you to kind of use the graveyard as an extra resource and bring the cards back to your hand. And the cards back to hand, you can keep them in your hand to be used as negates for Reveil or Wiz, or you can use them to kind of keep on pushing and extending your plays. An excellent card that's solid attack as well, so really, really powerful. And then we have the Search of the deck, which is Beat Blazeman for hire. So you're going to want 3 of this guy because he helps the deck push so much. So when he can special summon a for hire from hand, and when you special summon a for hire once per turn, he searches another for hire. So you normal summon him, special summon Reveil, so Seal, Beat Search like a Reveil and Seal, then special summons Reveil and you get 1 back from your hand as a negate. It's such a good combo and so worth running 3. His stats aren't the greatest, but then again with Helmer they can be increased quite a bit. So with Bravo they can be increased quite a bit. So he's a really, really good card. You have to run 3 basically. And then we have 2 Helmer. I personally don't think Helmer is very good at all. in terms of its on-field effect. It's useful as another sort of attribute, or sorry, why do I keep saying attribute? It's useful as another type because you don't have any other aqua monsters in the deck, so it can be good to go into Folgo with. Obviously, its stats are bad, or its attack is nothing, so you're not losing damage by using him into going into Folgo. And he allows you to push more plays from your hand by special summoning, but his actual on-field effect is pretty terrible. So if a monster for hire is special summoned, you can discard a card for hire and then draw one card. If you didn't have to discard a card for hire, that would be an amazing effect. But because you do, it really limits it. If it was just when another for hire special summon, you get to discard a card and then draw one, that would be so useful. You could picture a card in your hand that didn't have much use and you get to draw. But you think you kind of want your for hires in your hand so you can keep on pushing with them. I mean, maybe you've got a play where you discard like a card and then you've got a seal and you can go into seal and something, and you can start Helmer. Special summon seal from hand, discard a for hire, draw one, seal special summon a card from the hand, get back the for hire, and then the other guy special summons the guy that you discarded with Helmer. But that's like a very rare situation, and generally speaking, there are better options to help you extend your plays than and ways to dig into your deck rather than using Helmer. So he's just basically just there as a different type and a different way to go into Folgo and get more special summons by having a different name on the field. So then I'm just going to go through these two together because they're basically the same. 3 Domper and 3 Recon. Domper pops, they all have the same effect, especially when once from hand. Domper pops face-up cards, Recon pops face-down cards whenever another for hire summoned. They're really useful. They're crucial to go into some of your X-Deck plays, and also they help with, they allow your Folgo to draw 3 cards in like your main phase 1, although admittedly, depending on the matchup, you might have already used your Domper and for Recon in that turn before going into Folgo, in which case we've got some other options that allow you to sort of pop cards so your Folgo can draw cards. So they're just really good standard popping cards. They're useful as well because they've got low attack and defense. It's not so bad using them to go into big links, because it can be quite galling to use like a Reveal into a Sayuya, but sometimes needs must, and you kind of have to. Then we have the little plant and brilliant engine. So triple lone fire, tribute itself off to summon another lone fire, tribute that lone fire, summon another third lone fire, tribute that one, summon Orphis Scorpio. Orphis Scorpio then discard a monster in your hand, and then summon Darlingtonian Cobra, search out Brilliant Fusion. It's been done a million times before, and this deck is sort of, it's not breaking the mold with this, basically. Brilliant Fusion is just an incredibly powerful engine. Admittedly, it can get stopped by Ash Blossom nowadays, so that's why we run Call by the Grave, which we'll get to soon. So yeah, my ratios are triple Lone Fire, triple Orphis Scorpio, double Darlingtonian Cobra, and double Garnet. And we also have the one Trick Clown, because that's the best card to send off Brilliant Fusion. Because in an ideal situation, you'll have Orphis Scorpio, Darlingtonian Cobra, you'll get your Gem Knight, Seraphonite, and then you'll be sending your Trick Clown. So you bring Trick Clown back, and you've got him. So let me get the field up. You got these 4 basically, and then you use Seraphonite, Trick Clown, and one of these 2 to go into Folgo before you even start with your for hire plays. And you didn't use extra normal summon with Seraphonite first, and then you go into your then you're into Folgo plays, and you can just do so much with that. And Trick Clown is quite useful just to have in the graveyard anyway, because you can just basically go, you know what, I just want to take 1,000 damage, but I want to get this guy back for another link play or something like that, and another turn after he's been sent to the graveyard. So definitely one him. Hand traps, my lineup isn't the best because I don't have enough ashes. So I have 1 Ash Blossom and 2 Ghost Ogre. I mean, Ghost Spell would be really handy, but it's so expensive right now, so I don't have the means to afford it. I'd like to get a 2nd or 3rd Ash, but at the moment I only have 1, and the price is still quite expensive. So basically, this is sort of you can rearrange these as you want, and to be honest, you probably don't need 2 Helmer. So I would say you have about space for maybe 4 hand traps in the deck. So I would go double Ash Blossom and double Ghost Bell, but at the moment I don't have those cards, so these cards sort of make do. They do good stuff, but they're not optimal. No, that's the monster lineup. Now, as you can see, getting that into a 40 card deck is really darn hard. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 26, 29, 31, 33, 34. We've got 37 monsters. I mean, we could go triple Sekker's Light, to be honest, but then you wouldn't have the Brilliant Fusion or whatever you. But like this is one of the decks that actually could make use of Sekker's Light if you wanted to. But I prefer having a decent spell trap lineup. So we then have triple Brilliant Fusion, amazing card. You just search it off of the Pride Plants, or you draw it naturally, and you pitch your Gemini, Garnet, and one of your light monsters. Get yourself a Seraphonite, you get yourself an extra normal summon, and also a Fairy, which is a type that you don't have with the other monsters, so it allows you to go into forward easier. Really good card in this deck, because also if your first normal summon gets interrupted, but I mean, people aren't really playing Floodgate Jackpots and stuff like that, but like the deck lives and dies by its normal summon of the for hire, so getting a second one really helps. Double Call by the Grave stops hand traps and some like other kind of niche up things. Really good to have though. Best compulsory in most decks nowadays. Triple Mayhem for hire. Now you could cut this down to 2 because it depends how quickly you're trying to finish the game. But I think 3 is good because you can use one on your turn, set one for your opponent's turn, use it on their turn, and then you get to trigger all your for hires in your opponent's turn, and then you've got a third one for your next turn. That's like in the best case scenario. Admittedly, you're not probably going to be able to have use them in consecutive turns. I think having 3 is better than having 2, and if necessary, if you've already used one, you don't see a need of setting one, you can keep it in your hand as a discard for either L or Wiz. So you could cut this down to 2 if you're trying to go for a quicker game and you don't see the need of that extra for hire name. But 3, I think, is the optimum and probably the best way to go. 1 Monster Reborn, obviously, summons any monster from any player to go to the graveyard, so it helps you to extend your for hires, you get that special summon, you can then trigger all your effects and keep on playing, going further and further through your deck. So then Triple Pot of Desire, speaking of digging through your deck, this card is amazing in this deck. Because it's 60 cards, we can pretty much get away with banishing 10 cards and none of them being relevant unless we banish like both Garnets or something before we've done a Brilliant Fusion. But in which case then, that's just the risk you run with Pot of Desires. Sometimes it's going to completely destroy your deck, other times it's just going to fix your hand and allow you to pop off. And more often than not in this deck, it allows you to pop off. I want 3 because I generally always want to be able to see it early on. And because of the various ways that this deck has of being able to dig through the deck turn 1, like with Folga drawing, Reveal, excavating and picking one, and then with Soyu, you're sort of able to fix your hand. You're able to generally get at least 1 in your hand per like turn or per opening turn, so you're able to use it and dig into the deck even more. So it's a card that you see so often with this deck, despite the 60 cards. Really good in here. We have the 1 Reasoning, because all of the for hires can be normal summoned, but are different levels. You've got level 2s, level 3, level 4, level 5, 6, 7, and 8. Admittedly, level 3 we have the most of because of the plant engine, but the opponent might not know you're playing the plant engine if you get a Reasoning early on, or if you use the plant engine, then you're not going to have that many level 3s left in your deck. So really solid and allows you to kind of push through your deck a little bit further. And because you run so many monsters that can be normal summoned, you're not likely to mill out too many cards anyway, because the deck doesn't really want to mill out much of its resources so badly. Because I mean, with Seal you can recover some, but actually no, they'll be able to normally summon anyway, so they'll be sent to the graveyard or special summoned. Especially you want Reasoning just because it can allow you to push from your deck a little bit more, because most for hires want you the cards in your hand, and some are able to help you draw, like with Folga and Reveal. But Reasoning, if you're like, Reasoning is kind of a risky card. Like you could cut it if you don't if you don't think it's worth it, given that it's reliant on sort of guesswork and RNG. But the times it works so well. It allows you just that push forward. And I mean, like, if it doesn't even get you a for high, it can get you like a Garnet or one of your hand traps, and then that's like a different type to all your other monsters, so you can go into Folga with that. So it's darn useful. 1 Reinforcement of the Army. It searches beat. It searches the searcher basically. Yeah, that's all it does. I think I don't think there are any other there aren't any other level 4 low wires in the deck, but that's fine. Double Scapegoat. Really solid defensive card. Helps going into Soyu. If you're if you get a bad hand, Scapegoat allows you to kind of survive a turn, unless they like Chaos Max all the piercing damage in the wild. But generally, it allows you to live a little bit more. If your board gets blown up, because you generally spend a lot of resources on your big board of monsters. This allows you to kind of recover a little bit come your turn, or prevent you from being OTK'd. So I really like Scapegoat in the deck. And there's so many link monsters that can make use of Scapegoats, because you can kind of use it into Link Spider, Link Karibo and stuff like that, and then use those different names into Sayuya or what have you. One Soul Charge. I mean, Wiz helps you gain life points, but life points don't really matter too much anyway in this deck. So you can use this with like one for hire out, summon 4 from the grave, and then you get the Reveille effect, and then you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, or top 4 cards of your deck, or what have you, and then add it to your hand. It really helps going into your big links when you've already sort of exhausted your resources, or if your field is gone, and it allows you to recover quite nicely with the deck. Definitely worth running one. Oh, I think a card disappeared somewhere. Where the hell does it go? Oh, there we go. Sorry. So I got caught somewhere else. Then we run 2 cards that are normally in the side deck for most decks that I play. Or, well, I don't really side deck Raigeki that often. But Raigeki and double Twin Twisters. Because the deck is so heavily reliant on getting big boards, Twin Twisters is sort of a necessity to get rid of the opponent's traps. Admittedly, it can be sided out if your opponent doesn't run spell traps, but there are ways to sort of make use of the card even if you draw it like turn 1 and your opponent's not using spell traps. You can discard it, or you can shuffle it back into your deck with Sayuya, so it's not all bad even in a matchup when it's not going to have that much use. But the additional effect that these guys have is if you've used all your if you've got your Folga on board and your opponent's still got a card, and you've got your other Fahars, you can use these to pop some of your opponent's cards, and then use Folga's effect to let you draw 3, because it doesn't matter how the opponent's card is destroyed, whether it's by a Fahar effect or by these guys, you can possibly draw 1 or 3 cards depending on the number of Fahars you control. So these 2 cards, I think, or these 3, because I won with them at 1 and 2, I think are really useful in this deck, and because it's 60 cards, the deck can kind of afford to run those. I wouldn't advocate one of those if you tried a 40 card deck, although I wouldn't really advocate a 40 card for our deck, because the deck is so down. There's so many cards that you need in the deck. And then for the traps, you just run 1 Solemn Judgment and double Solemn Strike. Judgment, again, Judgment is just great because it doesn't matter how many life points you have. Pay half them, negate a thing. Solemn Strike just stops monsters from being summoned or their effects popping off, so really useful. And if you wanted to, you could have this deck be maybe 54 cards, but there's a little bit of me that's like, no, it's 40 cards or 60 cards, nowhere in between. I know that might just be my view on it. So we run 60 cards, even though you could probably cut a few out. Extra deck time. Double Seraphonite. We've got double Garnet, and we've got double Garnet, and we've got triple Brilliant Fusion. Might as well be able to potentially make use of Seraphonite twice in a game. Really good starter card. Getting you that extra normal summon is so vital, and it goes into Folga really nicely. And we kind of have to run that. For our rank 2s, which are summoned with the Recon and Domper, we have 1 number 64 Ronin Raccoon Sendeu, and 1 number 45 Crumble Logos to Prophet of Demolition. Number 45 isn't that great, but in certain matchups, being able to negate a card on the field and stop its sort of continuous effect can be absolutely busted. I don't really use it too often, and to be honest, you could probably have this card in this side deck and put in another Link monster in the extra deck, but I think it's nice to have, because there are certain decks, for example, if you're against, I know this is a very specific example, but this weekend last weekend I faced a Dark Magician deck, and if I got into this, I would have been able to negate Secret Ritual Spellcaster to use spells from my hand and stuff like that, even though I didn't have a Wiz on the field. So I think it's useful. It has its niche uses. I generally prefer going into 64 Ronin Raccoon Sendeu, because this card is so good, because you detach a material, summon a token it has attack equal to the highest attack monster you control. So hopefully that'll be Reveille at 2/8 or maybe at 3/3, depending on whether you've bravoed. So you get another big beat stick, and also if you summon this guy after you've got a Link monster already established, you get a token, so you can then use the token and him to go into another Link monster, because you're essentially not giving up a different name, because you're getting the token. So you can go with Folga and then a token and a couple of other Fahars into Sayuya. if necessary, but generally you just get that token and it's big and it beats over things and you just attack for game. And also it can't destroy a battle on card effects while you control a token, which is okay. Or no, while you control another beast type monster, no. So it actually works for Scapegoat as well in a weird way. Although to be honest, you're not going to really be comboing it with Scapegoat, to be honest. 4 rank 3s, just in case the draw doesn't go too well and we've ended up with like Darlingtonia Cobra on a beat maybe, or Darlingtonia Cobra and Predator Plant, or for Scorpion we don't really want to go into Gemini Strath Knight for whatever reason. We can go out into Alucard and pop a set card. That's basically it. I mean, and then Alucard is a zombie, so you can hopefully use him into Folgo, because the only other zombie is at number 45, so that should work. Now, I've talked about him a lot this video, but here we go. Double Folgo Justice for Hire. What does it do? Well, it requires 3 monsters with different types, which is fairly easy to make given how diverse your type lineup is, and with your main deck and extra deck. And on its first effect is actually a terrible effect. It would be so much better if this could happen. It cannot be used as link material, which is so sad. Because if it could, it would be. I think the card would be so busted in this deck if you could then use it to go into like Borreload or Soyuya itself. But whatever, that's okay. But on Link Summon, he special summons for hire from your deck with a different type to the 3 monsters used for the Link Summon. Now, if you're playing the deck correctly and you're not being interrupted, you should be using Plant, Fairy, and Spellcaster. So basically you can summon any for hire from your deck apart from Wiz, which is incredible. And then you can use them to pop off, or you can summon Reveal if you want to. Just it can do so much for the deck. You can basically do whatever you need with this card. So you've got 3 for hires in your hand, and one of them is like Domper, one of them is Recon, one of them is Beach. Like, well, I can get Seal from my deck and then go Seal into this, into that, or something like that. It just allows you to get that extra name, allows you to push your hand forward, and just it's so good. And if that wasn't enough, as well as this, once per turn during other player's turn, if a card your opponent controls will be destroyed but is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can draw 1 card. Then if you control 3 or more monsters for hire with different names, you get to draw 2 more cards. Oh my god, this is amazing. So it means like I'll often try and get this done in the main phase 1 by summoning him and then going into Stomper and Recon, or summoning him and then doing Raigeki or Twin Twisters. But you can actually just do this in the battle phase. You can just kill a monster by battle when you've got your for hires on the field, draw 3 cards, and then main phase 2 you're kind of set up. You might draw like a Solemn or something, and you're able to kind of puts down some more defenses for the deck, or go into some crazy stuff in main phase 2. Maybe like get into your Sagita and do some burn for game. This card is just incredible. We won 2 just in case 1 gets. Because we can summon it so frequently with this deck, if 1 gets gone, or if 1 is destroyed or banished, we want to be able to summon another one, because the deck loses so much if it doesn't have access to the card. The other links aren't that relevant. I'll just go through the best one. Soyuya Skuldred. Honestly, I probably want 2 of Soyuyas for this deck, because you're able to get into him really easily and being able to sort of fix your hand and then get that special summon that allows you to sort of go, oh look, I haven't used a beat this turn, but I've used up both my normal summons, so I'm going to Soyuya, draw 4, summon draw a beat off it, or have a beat in my hand, special summon the beat, special summon another card with beat, search a card, special summon, and keep on going and on. But I mean, you only really need 1, because hopefully by the point that you've special summoned your hand and deck with him, you should be in the position to win the game. But if you're not, I think like 2 would be so much useful, because I've actually been in a position where I've been able to basically summon 2 in 1 turn, and yeah, like then they're not hard once per turns. There's always trigger when he's link summoned, so you are able to potentially actually summon him twice in a turn. But Extra Space is tight, and it's not that expensive. It's about £10-11 card. If I can get a second one, I would definitely be running him in this deck over some of the other extra deck cards. But realistically, you do only need 1. But then again, I don't go into many of my extra deck cards that often. So another big link for is Borreload Dragon. Could easily be Bowl Sword. I don't have it. He just has some really nice disruption with monsters and can kind of just run over a lot and cause some problems. Then we have 1 Firefighting Daruma Doll and 1 Nightmare Phoenix as a sort of link 2s. Nightmare Phoenix is just useful to pop a back row. I don't want Nightmare Cerberus because I've got I'm not too worried about monsters with Dumper, but back row is more scary for this deck. So I think Nightmare Phoenix is more necessary, and you can discard like a Mayan for high or something that you don't really need. Drumadel you can kind of use to pitch your Brilliant Fusion that no longer has a use to destroy an opponent's battle trap, and also when he kills a monster by battle, you get to recover one of your Beast Warrior or Wing Beast from the grave, or that's banished, which there's quite a lot of those in this deck, so he's okay, and he gains attack as well. He's not the greatest, but he's fine to go into sometimes. Then linked threes, we have Nightmare Unicorn and Topologic Turbina. Unicorn is just amazing, spinning a card back into the deck if necessary, and like that draw can help a lot. I don't go into Unicorn that much because I've got quite a bit of disruption anyway with my main deck cards and stuff like that. But Unicorn is definitely worthwhile, and you will want to go into it in a lot of matchups. Tribana is interesting because you're able to special summon so often. You're quite able to get that. You're quite easily able to get the special summon onto the zone he points to, banish your own monster, which is sad. But he then also banishes all of your opponent's burn traps. So. And then he inflicts burn damage, which is really handy. But basically, the main use of Topologic Turbina is to just clear out your opponent's back row if necessary. He could probably be dropped, but I still find him quite useful to go into in certain matchups like Altergeist or or Phantasm Spiral. And then as our final two cards in the extra deck, we have Link Spider and Link Rebo. They're basically used in conjunction with Scapegoat, and also with Scapegoat you can get Firefighting Daruma. Though I preferred him over Mrs. Radiant in this build, just because we've got more Beast Warrior and Wing Beast monsters than Earth, so we're able to be summoned through multiple outlets rather than just through Scapegoat. But you can summon these guys with Scapegoat, and then you can go into Sayuya's or Borloads, whatever floats your boat really. So yeah, that's the deck. It's not the creme de la creme. It's not going to beat every deck, but it's really, really fun to play. And I strongly urge you to at least pick up this deck and give it a go on Duel Link, or no, not Duel Links. Or actually, Duel Links for hire is still okay, but give it a go on like Dueling Book or Devoy, because the deck is so much fun to play. And also, it's quite unexpected because not many people really understand or know what the for hires do. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the deck profile, and I hope you'll check out the deck for yourself. Have a nice day, guys.